A person with a system will always beat someone who doesn't have one. Here's what my system for exploratory data analysis looks like after a decade and thousands of datasets analyzed. Welcome, friends and foes, to another Data Devotional. I'm Luciano Pesci, founder and CEO of Emperitas and Nexum. Today's Data Devotional is about exploratory data analysis. So what do you do when you're given a brand new dataset? Or what do you do before you embark on a predictive model? Or what do you do if you need to analyze the same metrics over time? The answer is exploratory data analysis, abbreviated as EDA. This is not a one and done process. This is not something that you do a single time and then move on. This is something that will happen in waves and that you will have to return to each time. And for that reason, you need a system in place to keep track of what has been done, what hasn't been done, and to share the results of your analysis with different users across the organization and brand. For those who have attended an Emperitas bootcamp or who have consumed some of the other content on our YouTube page, you're probably familiar with our system of thinking broadly, mining deeply, and explaining simply. Exploratory data analysis involves the thinking broadly step as well as the mining deeply step. It sits as a bridge between them. I will lay out again at the end of this devotional the system that I use in particular for EDA. But having a system is a prerequisite for successfully exploring datasets. And when it comes to thinking broadly, there are a few things that you are after immediately. The first is to gather all relevant documents. This is background information on the dataset that you're going to use. For this devotional, the example will be around Silverman's survey data. That means that we need a copy of the survey in PDF form. We need the data file or files. In this case, one is numeric choice, one as choice options or choice text. And we'll also start with a script template that we can use to copy and paste to do the EDA depending on the kind of metric that we're dealing with. All of those documents have been gathered and put into a compressed folder. I have shared access to those files through a link in the slides coming up. Once you have gathered all of the relevant documents and put them into one place, the next step is to manually inspect the data and the documents themselves. You'll see that we'll be able to do that in R and in Power BI. I'm going to use both. Finally, you're going to plan your analysis script in your outlining script. I'll show you that as well in R+Rstudio. But I start with a template that has predefined 5 types of metrics that I know I'm going to use over and over again. So part of what I'm going to do is copy and paste from that document or that script into my main EDA script. You will likely spend a great deal of time in these data sets while you're doing EDA. For that reason, there are some things that you can do along the way to maximize the efficiency of your process. The first is to preserve terms wherever possible. If a field or a metric has a name in a table or in an upstream source, maintain that as much as possible as you continue to do your EDA, as you pass that insight along downstream to the rest of the brand and team. This will help them understand your analysis since they're already familiar with the metric or the field that you're presenting, and they can easily identify it by name. Sometimes you need to be able to rename metrics or variables, or fix things that have been named inappropriately upstream. That's fine. This is not the time to do it, but this is the time to document it. Write down which fields or columns could be purged, could be dropped, could be changed, could be merged. As you explore the data, you will have ideas about how to improve it. Write those down and pass them back upstream to the data guardians. But in general, the best practice is to keep labels, to keep categories and descriptions as they are throughout your EDA. Note the changes that need to be made and then make those retroactively once your EDA has been completed. While EDA is a very simple process, there are some tips and tricks that will help you move through it more efficiently and create something that is more sustainable, more replicable, more reproducible for other people in the brand. So let's connect EDA to those tips and tricks. The first tip for conducting EDA is to make sure that you're selecting the appropriate tool for the analysis. This means that you have to understand the underlying data that you're using completely. Step back to what I said a few moments ago. You need to explore the data manually. Part of that data exploration is answering the MOST definitions. If you're unfamiliar with the MOST data acronym, I've linked to the Emperitas Interpreting Data Like a Pro presentation on our YouTube channel. But quickly, the acronym stands for Measurement, Origin, Scope, and Totality. You need to understand all of those when it comes to working with the data itself. As far as what you are after with EDA, measures of shape, center, and spread, where appropriate, using tabulations and visualizations. This is what you're going to see in the R script, in the R project that I share shortly, over and over and over. Just this application, to metric by metric, field by field, to figure out what type of data it is, what form of analysis is appropriate, and then applying that analysis so I can produce the resulting tabulations and visualizations. This process was first explained to me by a dear colleague, Dave King, while we were teaching at the University of Utah together. Dave gave me this metaphor of a toolbox, that when you're looking to do EDA or any analysis, it's similar to working in a shop. You have a toolbox that has the appropriate tools for the job. It is on you to understand which tool is appropriate. This is where understanding the MOST acronym of the data comes in. that will allow you to go to the toolbox and answer these questions. Am I after univariate or multivariate analysis? Is it parametric or non-parametric? And is this time series or cross-sectional data that I'll be dealing with? Those 3 questions, among others, will help you quickly identify the appropriate analysis or the appropriate tool to select from the toolbox for your EDA. Part of having a system is being systematic in your approach. Doing the EDA field by field, column by column, metric by metric, dataset by dataset is the best way that I have found after 10 years of analysis. This helps you avoid missing fields and columns. This helps you avoid chasing down rabbit holes during this process, which is a big temptation that you're going to face. You'll find something interesting and want to go digging further. That is not the purpose of EDA. Right now, EDA is about understanding the dataset in its entirety. What you're usually after in those moments of excitement when you found something interesting in the dataset is the deeper analysis, the descriptive analysis that you'll need to apply across multiple metrics through multivariate analysis, which is not the purpose of EDA. So we'll set that aside for a moment and go column by column, field by field, until we have documented the analysis for all of the metrics that we are interested in exploring. So why do I use 2 tools for this? It's because of the 2 different audiences that I have to work with. The first are the technical individuals. For those individuals, something like R, or if you wanted to do this in Python, that's fine. It's much more reproducible. They can follow along, see exactly what was done. They can critique what was done. They can modify what was done. They can replicate what was done. And they need that ability. This is about preserving the analysis to share the insights with everyone on the technical team. The second audience or end user group for the EDA are the non-technical individuals at the brand. And for them, something like R is too daunting. It's much better to present the same analysis through better looking charts and simpler visualizations using Power BI. This is why when I do EDA, I choose to use 2 different tools. However, within both of those tools, I will utilize a copy-paste approach. This means that I am reusing code or I am reusing visualizations wherever possible. This requires that I ensure the initial visualization or the initial script is free of errors. Otherwise, as you copy-paste, this is one of the cons, you will spread those bugs, those errors. And now, rather than replacing a single error in one spot in the script, I may have to go back and do it 40 times. But overall, the copy-paste approach is highly efficient because it allows you to reuse code that you're already using or visuals that you're already using, which means the formatting, the templatized nature of it copies and pastes with it, and you don't have to make those changes to every single visual, to every single bit of code, which means you avoid drift in the formatting of what you're doing. Now that we've connected EDA to some tips and tricks and tools, let me show you behind the curtain how I'm actually doing it. As a reminder, we will be using the Silverman survey. This was a survey of crypto users, investors, node operators, and dApp developers featured in other data devotionals. And this survey data, once analyzed, will be fed into the agent-based model for the tokenomics simulation for their crypto blockchain token. Since I'm using 2 tools, I'm going to do something I haven't done yet in a devotional. I'm going to divide this into 2 parts. So we're going to end on a cliffhanger. I'm going to show you RStudio today in this devotional. And next week, I will show you the same analysis as I have completed it in Power BI. All of this is a work in progress. Right now, you can link to the project file in R using the link on the screen. That will download through Q17. I will replace that file once this EDA is complete with the complete EDA script. So if you use the same link in the future, you'll get the entirety of the analysis. But as of right now, you're only going to get through Q17. And next week, I will share the Power BI version with you through probably Q17 as well. With that, let's turn to the software. You're looking at the Finder folder of the working directory from the RStudio project that you decompressed and downloaded following the link on my slides. I'm showing you this so you can see what is in the folder and what has been organized for you. There are 2 copies of the survey, a simplistic view and a more detailed view that shows all the survey flow. There are 2 versions of the dataset. These are the 2 ways that you can download the data files directly from Qualtrics. One as choice text, so as the survey responses showed up on the survey, and then one as the response options, so this is the coded values ready for analysis. I'm going to use the choice text because that's my preference, but you have both files if you'd like to use the other. There are also 2 script files in this. One is the Silverman survey EDA script itself, and the other is a starting template that I use that I've also shared with you that you can use from this point forward for nominal, ordinal, interval ratio, and unstructured text metrics. But everything I have is in this folder. Let's jump into RStudio itself now. We're looking at RStudio and we have 2 scripts open. We have the template that I will walk through in a moment, and we have the Silverman survey EDA script itself. This is the bulk of the work that I have done through Q17 so far. Down here in the environment, you can see that we've got the working directory pulled up. We have the 2 different data files. We have the PDFs. If we wanted to, we can open them directly from here. I'm not going to right now. And you also have the .r project file itself. This is for RStudio, not for R. So the R scripts could run in R by themselves. The R project file will only run in RStudio. I've cleared out the history so that you can see this run once in its entirety. But before I do that, I want to take you to the template script that I used to create this. So let's start here. I have organized 5 different metric types and the snippets of code that you can reuse, the copy-paste approach that I mentioned before, by coming to this script. And as long as you know what the variable metric type is that you have to analyze, go back to the MOST acronym and to the link to the Interpreting Data Like a Pro. Once you can identify that for this specific field or column, what I have is nominal data, then you will know that this is the section of code that you need to copy and paste. Similarly, let's say that you had continuous data. You had the best data of all. You could do anything with it. It's ratio data as far as its measurement. So this means that it describes, it has order, it has set unit intervals, and it has a defined 0 point. It can be included in ratio. Well, you have ratio data. This would be the snippets of code that you'd come and copy paste. You can take a look through all of this on your own. The unstructured text is about producing tables with the null or missing values removed. With unstructured text, you could do some other visuals like a word cloud, but I am not doing that right now. But everything that I'm going to show you now in the Silvermint script came from and originated with these snippets. Just copy paste and then changing all the values, changing the text, updating everything and making sure it runs. Let's go to the Silvermint survey script. This is a long script, presently at about 1,500 lines. A lot of that is just space and notes. So there's not a lot of code in this itself. But you'll see, if I reduce this, that I have a very clear outline. And I'm using the commenting ability to create these sections. You can see these in RStudio here. You can see I have question by question laid out in its entirety in blocks. These are the same blocks that were in the survey. So if you open the survey, you will see the questions have been arranged into blocks. So this is the all agent block and all of its resulting questions. I can just jump to it here, or I can jump back to my filtering block and look at the questions here. My point in using RStudio is so that I can organize it in this way. This is one single script. It does have certain packages that have to be installed on the version of R in order to run. These are pretty standard ones. You can install them yourself. Once those are installed, I can import the data, and then I can run all of this exploratory data analysis. You will notice that the cleaning data portion is empty right now. So far, I haven't encountered anything in the survey that would require cleaning. I don't think that that will continue. I think that as I get deeper into the survey analysis here, that things will require some cleaning. I'll come back and I'll put all of that cleaning into this portion. The hallmark of a good script, in my opinion, is can it be reproduced easily by someone else? If you download this and you install all these packages and you set your working directory correctly, you should be able to run this script just like this. Hit source and just sit back and watch. We'll give it a few minutes. Right now it's going line by line through all of that code. And then you'll see at the end it's going to produce all the visuals, and I'll walk through those quickly. Here we are. I can look and see all of the output by scrolling up here in my console. Here's my script again. It opened the data file. I can manually inspect the data file here, something that I did outside of R. But all of my analysis, question by question, block by block, and then data set by data set is laid out here just like I had explained before. I am copying and pasting. I'm laying the tracks as I go. In fact, you can see if I scroll down here where I have ended with Q17, I have left some blank lines. I've already outlined the other blocks that I'm going to complete. I have nothing in them at the moment because what I will do, as I said before, I will figure out, well, what is question 18 on the survey? What type is it? Let's assume without looking that it's a nominal variable. Then I will come in here and I will copy this portion of code and I will go into my other script. And as I start to work on Q18, I will paste it in here, and this is where I will start to do my changes. So that's my EDA system for working in RStudio with survey data. The system itself is going to be identical, whether it's survey data, whether it's Google Analytics data. What will differ is the type of data that I have, and specifically its measurement, its origin, its scope, and its totality. If I'm able to identify all of those things, then I can go to my toolbox, and I can pull out the appropriate tool analytically, apply it here, put it in script, save it, and then down the road, anyone else can come back and see exactly what I've done, reproduce what I've done, modify what I've done, expand on what I've done. And one of those people is going to be me. because EDA happens in waves, and I will want to modify things, and not just bugs, not just fixes, but I will want to expand what I'm doing. I will want to change the way that I was looking at one metric. I may have missed a metric. I may have looked at a metric in the wrong way. Maybe I thought it was one type, but turns out after further analysis, it really is a different type. I can come back in here, and without having to reproduce everything, I can just swap out and change the portions that I need and move forward with my analysis. And then anyone 10 years from now can open RStudio, launch this, rerun the analysis, and see exactly what I produced. The best way to understand this is to spend some time digging through the script itself, go line by line, run the code, reproduce the visuals, look at the output, and then ask yourself, is this shareable with executives? This is great for the technical team, but I would never send an R project file or R script or any of the R output directly to decision makers, stakeholders, or other leaders, unless they have deep technical skills. Instead, I will send them a Power BI version that shows all of the same visuals that if you look here, we've got Q16, 15, 14. I can scroll back and look at all these visuals, and I can use them as a basis of comparison against the survey, which the survey folder, by the way, also has some of the analytics output from Qualtrics. So Qualtrics itself produced some of these visuals on the fly inside of their tool. That data had not been cleaned, so those visuals are not necessarily ideal or usable, but I can create a benchmark from them to my R analysis and then use both of those to triangulate what I'm seeing in the EDA through Power BI, and that is what I would then share with the non-technical members of the team. If you have questions about the script or you find errors in this script somewhere, please let me know. This is through Q17, which is about a quarter of the survey, so this will get much larger. Now we're back to why an outline, something like this, is so useful. Review it, see what you think. Let's compare it to what I produce next week with Power BI. Keep your data progress going by working in RStudio with the EDA that I've provided, and next week we'll dive into the EDA through Power BI. See you then.